Welcome, everybody, to the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation's Live Better series. I am Rob Girth, and I'm the Director of Digital Media here at the Foundation. Today, we have what I think is a very cool topic. It's called sidewalk navigation. Sidewalk navigation. What does that mean? Well, we're going to find out. And we are lucky enough to have a couple of experts with us who you will meet in just a couple of minutes. But first, a little housekeeping. We're going to take some question and answer at the end of the call here. So towards the end of the hour, we'll take Q&A. And we'll be able to do that on the chat feature, or you'll be able to actually call in and talk to our guests live if you want to do that. For the technical details on that, here is our operator, Susan.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to join us via phone at the end of the presentation to ask a question or make a comment, please dial 1-800-679-2940. Once again, that's 1-800-679-2940, and press 1-4 to register with the operator and be in queue. You may also use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen to type in your questions. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded Wednesday, December 11th, 2013. Thank you.
And I will type that phone number into the chat as soon as I'm done talking here so you didn't have to memorize it. Let's get started. Our host for today is Candace Cable. And Candace is a friend of mine. I like to say that because then I get to say this next part, which makes her sound really cool. She's a pioneer in the sport of wheelchair racing and has 12 times been a Paralympic medalist in 3 different sports, and that just makes me tired even thinking about it, Candace, all the training that must have gone into that. I never get tired of talking about that. This is the part where you talk.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
I know. I have to say it's always nice once a month somebody goes, "You're cool."
Well, I could call you more often, Mike.
I know, it's great. I love it. I hope we never end this series because we are meeting some really awesome people, and we've had the opportunity. If anybody is listening right now and you haven't gone into the archives, you really have to take some time and get to know some of the people that we've had come through. This Live Better series I'm super grateful for it, and I'm really glad that you're all here today because we're going to get to spend some time on the sport of sidewalk navigation. Anybody who uses a wheelchair, a walker, a stroller, or even just walking along the sidewalk knows sometimes it can be really difficult and challenging to get around cities. And today our guests are Shannon Moore and Joanna Cardoso, who are the co-creators of the Effortless City, a comprehensive travel resource of sidewalk maps and navigational smartphone applications that will allow the user to choose their route and the places that they want to stop along the way based on the level of difficulty that they're willing to experience. Joanna is originally from Lisbon, Portugal. Joanna attended the Keene University in New Jersey, earning her BFA in graphic design, and began working with agencies throughout Europe and the San Francisco area. Joanna has just completed her master's degree in graphic design at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. And she is the art director, designer, and the visual communicator for the Effortless City. Shannon Moore, our second guest, was originally from New Jersey. And at the age of 2, she was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, which required her to use a wheelchair for mobility by the age of 8. Shannon decided to move to Florida to pursue a BA in psychology at Eckerd College. And after graduating, she got to travel blog. She traveled extensively throughout the United States. And she writes all of the content for the Effortless City publications. When Joanna and Shannon became friends, their love of outdoors and travel took them to Portugal, where they discovered that people with disabilities were sent to separate schools, that ramps were for delivery people and not for wheelchairs, and access to bathrooms meant traveling down flights of stairs. Instead of being detoured, they zigzagged their way through Portugal, conceiving of an empowering and also a better way to get around the town. And it's all about perspective. And so this is where the Effortless City came from, because our perspective is really something that we can design. And it's exactly what they've done with the Effortless City. So let's check out what the Effortless City looks like. Joanna, Shannon, welcome.
Thank you so much. That was a fabulous introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. I actually didn't start moving the slides. I apologize.
It's okay.
Well, let's get started. Joanna, you grew up in Lisbon, Portugal. So tell us what it was like growing up there. And honestly, I have to say, when I was looking at pictures of Lisbon, I thought, no wonder she's so attracted to San Francisco. Look at that giant bridge in Lisbon. She's used to a big one.
Yeah, growing up in Lisbon, I mean, Lisbon in Portugal is a small country in Western Europe that people just tend to fly over and go into Central Europe. So Portugal is quite quiet, and people are just happy to live day to day and enjoy. Growing up in Portugal again was also I didn't really connect. Like, we didn't have people with disabilities integrated in our classes. It was quite segregated. If you end up having an injury, you stay at this one hospital for a few months, and nobody really knows what happens to people afterwards, which is kind of scary. And Lisbon is geographically pretty similar to San Francisco. We have just about the same amount of hills, and the bridge, as you were mentioning, have the same engineering, and it looks like the Bay Bridge, but it's colored like the Golden Gate. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when I was looking at the pictures of it, I was thinking, wow, it's so similar to where you live now. And and so, did that help with the background of developing the tools for the Effortless City to have grown up in a place like that?
Yeah, because you think about it, there is no ADA in Portugal. The standards for accessibility are still pulled from different countries in Europe, such as France and England, as well as the American rules. But without a cohesive system, then things get done as one thinks that they are going to be done good. So say ramps for access are normally thought of as loading and offloading cases of beer and pallets of cakes versus a person in a wheelchair, for example.
Right. So probably the Convention on Rights for Persons with Disabilities will have a huge impact on countries all over the world.
It was to see it not go through last year.
And so Shannon, tell us. Actually, sorry, I don't even know my own slides. So Joanna, tell us about going to school with you. What was the draw towards graphic design?
Well, I actually wanted to be an architect my entire life until in 12th grade. I started working with posters and flyers and realized that was a lot more gratifying to have an instant thing impact people than wait until I was old and build a building for some people to use. So when I finished my master's, my degree in graphic design, and I actually went back to Portugal to work, I just felt like I needed to continue pursuing it, and I decided to enroll back in my master's to develop Effortless City as my thesis. Shortly after we returned from traveling to Portugal, in which it just became very clear to me that without access and paths for people to be included in society, it just led people to being home isolated and so on and so forth. So that's when I decided that if I was going to go back to school, I was going to put my skills to work and try to impact society as I know it.
I like that. I like it a lot because everybody, that uses a wheelchair is always challenged by urban areas, the curbs, the lack of curb cuts. I remember, before there were curb cuts really, because I had a spinal cord injury in 1975, that I had to go out to the street to be able to go through a driveway to get up on the curb, and so those are all safety issues too for people, moving around.
That's another reality that coming from Portugal is that people. The sidewalks are narrow and cobblestones, and drivers think that's enough of a spot for me to park my car, so I'm going to block the sidewalk, And so do you have people then not being able to, even on that bad path, continue to travel. So they do have, I mean, there's been a few actions in terms of advertising to make people aware of that, but it's still a huge problem.
Right. Well, and I met someone recently from Indonesia, and he was saying that he was out one evening, and he said during the day he never saw people in wheelchairs. And then one evening he was out late, and the streets were full of people with wheelchairs. He said because they couldn't get up on the sidewalks. And so they waited until all the traffic had died down to be able to move around throughout the city, which, just changes the way a whole city is moving and reacting throughout the day if people with disabilities aren't even seen.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Shannon, growing up with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis.
It was definitely interesting. I was always raised, because I got it when I was 2, so luckily I didn't have to live a long life of ability and then have it taken away from me, which, I give you major props for that, because it's just, I can't even imagine having to lose such, ability and stuff. So it started in my left ankle, and then it just spread through my entire body. So I have polyarticular, it's called, and it literally went from my ankle to my knee to my hip. I mean, both sides, everywhere, even in my ribs, fake joints and stuff still hurt. So it was active from the time I was 2 to 10, or 12, for 10 years. And by the time I was 8, I was unable to walk anymore. So, but I was always raised like, it's no big deal. Like, this is just something that you have to do differently. You can't walk around. You have to just figure out, how to live with the limitations that you have, but to never actually look at it as a limitation. So I was really lucky with the parents that I did get, and, they really raised me to think I was normal in every way, in my head and my heart. But like I said, I just have to do things a little bit different. So on that level, I went to school, I did my thing, I went away to school. Everybody was freaking out because I'm from New Jersey, but I wanted to go away for school, and I didn't want to stay in New Jersey and be cold, and, with arthritis, the weather really affects my body and stuff like that. So the first state that I was looking at was Florida, and, I knew I'd feel great all the time and I'd be as independent as I could. So that is what I chose, and of course my mom and dad both were worried sick every day, but I ended up getting a helper down there, and it all just worked out. So ever since then, I really got the travel bug, and I knew I could do it. I would just have to figure it out. So I did. That's where it all began for me.
And what brought you out to California?
Well, my dad had lived out here for a little while, and by now it's about 15 years ago, I guess, I had come out here and loved it and brought my best friend, and we, as young kids were, let's promise to move out and we'll move out together, and, all these great wishes. So we did. She ended up moving out first, and then I shortly after moved out. But we just loved it. I mean, the weather is great. As far as accessibility, it is one of the most accessible places I've ever lived in the whole country. I've lived, in various states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Florida, all over the place. So this is by far the most accessible. There's a light rail right outside of my house, like a block away. So I can get on my scooter and go all the way up to San Francisco by myself, and that is just a really big deal for me. I really like to be as independent as I can. So with things like that, it just makes a huge difference. So it definitely drew us out here. And not to mention it was the second biggest place for graphic design at the time. So.
Oh, okay. And when you and Joanna met, was it just an instant friendship of knowing that, there were things that you guys had in common and you wanted to build stuff. I see the gardening. We have some slides on the gardening and some books that you created together. How did you guys meet?
Right. Well, we met. She was actually supposed to be my RA because I needed to take a couple classes to finish my degree. So I had moved back up north and went to Kane University, which was random, but that's how it happened. And so she was supposed to be my RA, and we just became friends. And all of a sudden, she would always talk her friends into traveling to Portugal to check it out, and so she could show everybody around. And then finally she's like, why don't you go to Portugal? And I'm like, okay, I'm down to do that. So she figured, there would be some obstacles and there would be some difficult things to do, but we would be able to figure it out. She has a great group of friends and family over there that it would definitely help get me, up and down steps if we needed to. Like her brother's house is, has 3 or 4 flights of stairs just to get up there. So we knew that ahead of time that there would be challenges, but we also knew that we were young and had enough people that could help carry me places. So that's how we ended up traveling to Portugal. But the books that we've created were actually part of Joanna's master's program where, she did all the design, of course, but I write all the copy for every publication and stuff like that.
Let me interrupt you for a second. And also, these books that we've created about community and gardening are also, although they started as school projects, that we did our best to put our personal interests into it and make it something that we can share with others on how we do things and how we see things. So it's one of a kind copy kind of books. They're sitting on my bookshelf, and we've attempted to give them out for some friends. But yeah, so that comes with the master's program, and just the one thing to put stuff out to share. Using graphic design and printed books as a way to share knowledge.
The community, one of the books was community book, and it's all about the importance of community. And it's funny because this book was created a few years ago, probably about 3 years ago, and now that we've done all this stuff with Effortless City and looking back at what the community book says, it makes what we're doing with sidewalks so much more important because community is so important. To feel like you're a part of something, to be able to be a local and go to the local coffee shop and they know who you are is a really big deal. It really makes you feel like a whole person. And going to Portugal multiple times and stuff like that, sometimes it's hard because you can't really get to places very easily, so you don't get included as often. And it really is evident in people sometimes that they're lacking that.
The community aspect of it?
Right. And you could tell it wears on, it wears on you. And not only it wears on you personally, it is obvious that people really don't get a chance to see people in wheelchairs. So when they do see you, it's like, wow, I need to take this all in because I have never seen someone so disabled, and it really causes a staring effect, and it's just, people are in awe to see me, So in order to get rid of that, the community needs to be filled with more people, get them out of the houses and into the coffee shops and bars and where everybody else is in order to, get over the shock factor of the disability.
Right, the exposure. And exposure only happens if people who have any kind of mobility impairment have access to the outside, to the the pathways that people move through in cities and urban areas, and the creativity. We're going to talk about the Effortless City and some of the things that you guys have done to create this, and then also how it's going to be accessible for people. But one of the things that really stood out looking at the pictures that you sent me was was the creativity that the two of you together have developed. I mean, for instance, there's these books, but the gardening aspect of it, of creating something that you can use as well as Joanna can use, in that and I'll let you explain this because what you were telling me was that you plant the seeds in this raised bed, and then once they're large enough, they get planted in the ground by Joanna. And that sounds like community at its finest, working together. Right. So how did you guys come up with this idea of, the several steps to getting the plants into the ground?
So when we first moved out to California, we got a chance to live in a house with a quarter-acre backyard. And I've never lived below the third story, so raccoons and skunks, all of that scared the living crap out of me. And, one year a friend started gardening. He asked if he could use some of the space that was, naturally unused in the backyard. And, I started hanging out with him and learning a little bit about lettuces and broccolis and stuff like that. And Shannon would go out in the backyard on her scooter, which meant she couldn't really reach the floor. But it's part of her nature to grow seeds. She will tell you a story about the green stalk in 1 second. But we had to come up with a solution. It couldn't just be that she took care of these seedlings, for 4 weeks and then she never got to touch them again. So we ended up figuring it out, going to Home Depot and looking around and figuring it out, things to do. And we got these bases that you see on the top left corner, added some legs to it and made it so that it was perfect size for Shannon. I mean, you might see a raised bed be 3 or 4 feet deep, but because of Shannon's reach, that doesn't serve much of a purpose. So we made it exactly what we needed and what we wanted.
I a lot of times, like, for example, my furniture in my house, randomly, my old best friend's dad had a wood shop, and I wanted my own coffee table that I could reach and my own things that I could reach, because I am like she said, my reach is just not average, even for a person in a wheelchair in general. My reach is a little different because of arthritis. So I don't know how or why. I've never had any kind of formal anything, but I like to sketch things up and get it made, so I can come up with the idea and draw it all out. So that's what I did with this planner. And I knew what height I wanted it to be. I knew how deep it needed to be. And there you have it. That was our first example of an effortless planner for me. So, of course, Joanna facilitates lots of things in my life, and this was just an awesome thing for me to have. So I want to get my hands in the dirt, and be able to make things grow. Originally I had been in the hospital, in Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, on the Seashore House level, and they did amazing events and amazing little things for kids to just make you feel like you're living a full life, and they I was in there for 9 months at the time, so it was a long stay through all kinds of holidays and all these things. So it was an event that had come up that was a contest where you had to grow a beanstalk and see who could grow the biggest beanstalk. So I did. I planted a bean and I took care of it and loved it. And it was the first time, because I got arthritis when I was 2, right? So typically kids, they can do all these things that help build autonomy and make them feel empowered just because they can put their clothes away or, whatever. But I didn't really have that. Exactly. I didn't have a way to feel independent, and I didn't have a way to feel like empowered because I did it, and, I'm being a big girl now kind of thing. So to have this little plant and take care of it and see it grow and I ended up winning because it was the best. It was the biggest, the tallest, when I won. So it was like the most empowering thing. So ever since, I've had this love for plants, and being able to take care of it from a little baby seed to a big old plant is just still empowering for me, because I still do have to ask people for stuff, and that's one thing that I can do on my own and really see it flourish. And it's true, we do work as a team community, and we feed a lot of our neighbors with our garden, and we brag a lot because everything is grown by seed, you know, and I start it and JoJo takes it and finishes it, and it's pretty amazing. So,
right, and the collaboration aspect of it really makes sense with the spark that you had when you were visiting in Portugal for your trip there, of how this city was full of effort, basically, to try to get around and do things, and then to move into that idea when you're in the middle of the frustration of the effort of not being able to get where you want to get, and then shift into how can we make this better. How did that inspiration come forward for you guys? How did you not get stuck in, well, I guess we'll just not go there again kind of thing, rather than that thought and move into the, how do we make this better and make it good?
It was really interesting to take Shannon to Portugal the first few times, because you know, I would be 100% convinced, let's go to that one part of town, or let's go see this or that, and arrive to know that, like, you know, the disabled parking spots were like on the opposite corner of the main entrance, or that ramps led to steps, or, you know, even national monuments. That still boggles my mind why the ramp doesn't come all the way to the ground level, you know, like. So to be there and it was very frustrating. Like Shannon mentioned before, the staring, especially when you go outside of the main city, Lisbon, or you know, you go a little bit into the countryside, and really people have never seen, like, not only just a person in a wheelchair, but someone with rheumatoid arthritis, which physically does look different. So the staring aspect and the frustration came from there. Actually fueled us to write letters and want to make things right. And the first idea was to, you know, everywhere we go after we're done, we're going to write a letter to the city hall and make some suggestions. And
okay, so you got proactive.
Yeah, I mean, those were the initial thoughts that's all we were going to do, you know. And as we traveled, because my parents, my dad is from Nazaré, about an hour north of Lisbon. And that really becomes a villa. You know, it's no longer like a little town or anything. It's just a small space. And my cousin actually happens to have been paralyzed for the last 10 years. And, you know, we run into him, and I almost didn't want to stop. You know, like I had seen him already. I had said hello, so we just wanted to carry on and go, you know, to our next pit stop. But Shannon pointed out, you know, we should go meet with him, like sit down and hang out. Because somehow, and I don't know what it was, he looked depressed. Shannon really felt like that we needed to go back. So we're sitting there having beers with him and, you know, talking, and he is just done. He doesn't understand why people don't care to make it better. Like, why is it so hard for him to live, to the point of which, like, he was really suicidal and he just didn't want to leave the house. Like, it was just hard. So we like kind of let it sink in, and we started realizing, look, we've gone around so many times in Lisbon and in Nazaré that we can create a little map. We can, because we would go to welcome centers, right? You think you go to a welcome center in Lisbon, capital of Portugal, or even San Francisco for that matter, here in California, and you think you're going to walk in and you're going to walk up to that wall that is covered of activities and routes and routes and stuff to do, and you're going to pick at least one that is going to be an easy route around the block, and there's none. So that became our mission, is that these people, if I was here, I would want to see a flyer in a welcome center that lets me know what is the little routes around the downtown Lisbon that I should go to, that I'm not going to encounter any major obstacles. And that's how it started. That's really how, and especially because, again, geographically, Lisbon and San Francisco are so similar that when I enrolled in school here, it was just ideal. Like, if I could only, or if and when I would solve the issue of having a system that is a little bit different than the maps as we know it, it's the first thing. It's the first priority right after is to go into Portugal and put these things into place.
Mhm.
So
Right,
I
and
don't know
so
if
you
that
started
answers your question, but
well, it did. It did answer the question in that you gained a new perspective from your cousin and his
Right.
frustration, and because you were making it easy for Shannon by being there and
Right.
and helping her move about, right? So you see this perspective of someone who has no one, and that really, as you said, you let it sink in, and it opened up both of your minds of, how can we actually make this better, and what are some of the perspectives that are important when someone's moving through a city, as far as what do they need to be aware of, and the beginning of the Effortless City really is about frustration. It sounds like
It really is. It was super frustrating, especially me. I've always, been in America, so I've only known for things. Yes, there will be curb cuts with, a corner without a curb cut, or different things where they say it's an accessible bathroom and it's really not, or so it is frustrating in America. But this was so eye-opening, and even her cousin. He was sitting outside of a bar by himself at the table because they didn't make a ramp for him to get inside of the bar. There's just simple things like that that exclude you, and I never felt that really, on that level of well, we'll just bring you your beer. You don't need to come in. But that's the whole point of going to a bar, right, is to socialize and be near people and, the whole experience. So
again, community, as you said.
Yes, community is so important, and you don't really realize it until you don't have it. And a lot of us here, wheelchair or not, we still have huge community if we can get out of the house, or even from Facebook. I mean, anything gives you community. So that was another thing, is the restrooms. Every restroom, we would have to really literally plan it out, because the only real restrooms are in places like libraries or gas stations. Even McDonald's over there, which this is a letter that I did write. I could not even believe it, but McDonald's in Lisbon, in one of the main tourist centers of Lisbon, also had a restroom in the basement. So even if you had a child in a stroller or anything, you couldn't. Everything else was standard. They still had the same French fries. They still had the same uniforms. They still had everything, but they didn't bring the standard of accessibility. Hard Rock Cafe, they, on the other hand, they had all the exact same standards and the exact same bathroom as a Hard Rock Cafe here. So I could not even believe it. At this point, I was so frustrated that I was like, how even McDonald's, I can't use the restroom at McDonald's. I mean, this is unheard of. So, and especially in a little village, every bathroom is in a basement. So you really have to plan your night. We would, before the train station would close, we would have to, I would have to quickly go and use the restroom in order to be able to stay out, because when you're in Portugal, it's a different culture. So everybody hangs out, has some coffee. You don't eat dinner until 8 o'clock at night. So it's a later night kind of culture. But since everything closes so early, you really have to think ahead. And, with all this in mind, it's if you are in a wheelchair and you are in this place, it's just exhausting to have to figure out all these things all the time. So we sort of figured, why not take one for the team and really write down everything that we figured out. And if you have to drive to get to this point because it's easier because the cobblestones are so bad, then tell people that. If you have to make sure you use the restroom before 2 a.m., tell people that so you're not stuck. So that's basically what Effortless City was born, because we want to make it, of course it's not going to be completely effortless. It still requires some kind of physical exertion to do anything. But if you know step by step what to expect, you can plan accordingly. And we wished we had it at the time. So it's almost like we're filling a need for ourselves, but it really serves the purpose of other people. So now every time that we do go to Portugal, it's like nothing. Like we just are like, okay, I got to go here, got to go there, you know, do this, do that, no big deal. This bathroom is this is that, you know. So, but when her cousin found out about it, you know, he was so excited, and he's just like, people need to know this. People need to know what to do and how to go about it in order to really live a full life, you know, because it will save people from the lack of community and feeling like a wacko freak because everybody, you know, sort of is in awe by you. But the more they saw me, the less they were over it, you know. So
Exactly. Well, and the more exposure people have to other people, you know, either with disabilities or of different color, or, you know,
right.
men and women, the more used to it we get, and then it becomes
exactly.
just a part of the landscape, and that really is, I mean, for people, especially with mobility problems, that's a big issue as far as becoming a part of the landscape, is being able to blend in with that rather than having to, you know, stay indoors or on the outside. And so with the Effortless City, so we know how the inspiration came forth with the trip to Portugal, but what are some of the practical things that began in the beginning of the Effortless City, of being able to map out an area, and how did you create your format?
Well, we looked at the city as a general space and realized that it was huge. That if we wanted to create a system that was expandable, that we could tackle other parts of town, we would have to divide the city into neighborhoods and start by creating a case study. And so that's what we did. We picked a neighborhood in San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury. And, you know, after doing basic recognition of the neighborhood, because we don't live there, in terms of, you know, where are the shops, what are the residential areas versus the cultural interest, we decided that there was about 10 to 12 sections of San Francisco that would be developed. And looking into a specific neighborhood, we decided to see what would be the easiest way to go from one side of the shops to the other. So in the case of Haight-Ashbury, there's Upper Haight and Lower Haight, which is divided by, there's this massive hill at the Visadero. And so we pretty much walked around and saw which was the easy way to connect the two parts. Was it, can you escape 3 blocks to the right and 3 to the left, or take a bus, you know, and pretty much create a solution that will alert people, hey, if you've gotten this far and there's this massive hill in front of you, you can choose which way to go.
So within the neighborhood, we also determined what exactly are sidewalk obstacles. Like, we had an idea, you know, a corner without a ramp, or a really bumpy surface. You know, those were just basic things instantly that we knew we were going to document. But as we went through, we realized there's a lot more obstacles as far as, you know, the grade is concerned of the street. That's something to note for people, where the disabled parking spot is, where the accessible bathroom is. You know, things like that really take the effort out of your day. So you can say, okay, there's a bathroom here, let's go to this shop, you know. So basically, we just went block by block and documented every crack. We have one GoPro we finally got that we attached to my wheelchair. And, you know, we tape everything, you know, and then be able to go back when we get home and say, okay, this section has this section has that. And
ultimately, because it was just the two of us too, and again, developing a system not as a professional company but as a project, our own little thing, we realized that it couldn't be done just with the two of us, you know. So we idealized a system, which we call them pavement pounders. I think that was also because of a friend's suggestion of the name.
Yeah.
But so we realized that if we sent out teams of 4 people, in which at least 1 or 2 of those 4 are either in a wheelchair or crutches, we would get a better perspective, because for example, me as an able-bodied person, looking at Haight-Ashbury Hills and saying, oh yeah, that's easy street to go up, and all of my perspective was completely changed one day that we decided to take an extra wheelchair and say, how about you push yourself up that hill now and see if it's still easy. And
right.
No, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. Like, God forbid I break my knee and I have to be in a wheelchair or crutches for 6 months. Like, how would I even go that one block that looked so easy to me before my injury,
Sure.
So
that's perspective again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we in these pictures that you see, obviously Laura McCormick on the wheelchair on the bottom, she is complete able-bodied, and it was a reality check to have to stroll through the city sidewalks and face counterslope and bumps and, people walking out on their phones and you name it. It's just, it's really eye-opening, like you say, and it's priceless to implement these kinds of things, I think.
So now
Go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say the Pavement Pounders, is this a kit that someone can get from the Effortless City? And
so since then, the Pavement Pounders sort of turned into a program where you can have a hard position helping us research cities. Within that, there's an app that Joanna has developed and designed that, we need funding and stuff to get it live, but it is an actual kit for the Pavement Pounder group that it allows you to document step by step what curve is this, what's the crack like, what's this, what's that. So as a team you go around and measure and document, and like I said, one day it will be a paid position for people of all abilities. There has to be X amount of people with disabilities in each group, but there is a kit where you get your measuring devices, and right now we have a printed version that we actually are mailing to people in order for them to rate their own block.
Because we felt it was also a necessity, because even though society in general is moving towards advanced technology and smartphones and tablets, not everybody has them. And, sometimes batteries die. So how do you continue your work if your phone battery is dead, so on and so forth. So, and for the master's program, there had to be, because I am a print designer, there had to be a print venue of it. So we created some cards that are block by block specific and that have a few questions, such as, the condition of the path of travel, or is there accurate rest areas if it's in a high slope, that you can just do it manually, like by sketching the curbs or the obstacles, So these are things that we have in mind to mail out to people that want to do a little bit of research. And it doesn't necessarily just have to do with becoming a massive researcher. Like, if you feel like your neighbor could benefit from having your little neighborhood mapped, then do yourself a favor and add the data, like reach out to us and we'll send you a little package with measuring tapes and, cameras and whatever, T-shirts, and you can add a little bit of data into the massive research.
And then once the Pavement Pounders do document everything, and one day it will be digital, so it'll be a lot quicker. But once they do document everything and the information gets back to us, we have a system where Joanna takes all the data and she creates the map for that block and for that neighborhood. So slowly but surely we're going to be able to compile, entire cities. Like, hopefully by the end of the summer, with the help of people, joining the Pavement Pounder program, we're going to have the entire San Francisco done. So it's really exciting, but once we got into it, we knew that we needed a program and we needed extra help. And people have been coming out of the woodwork with different tools and devices to document sidewalks. And it's just, it's really turning out to be something that's exciting for a lot of people. And so that's where we're at with that.
It sounds like you're really creating, again, that community and the collaborative effect with the hard copy map, which of course I'm a huge fan of. My youngest sister really enjoys teasing me about how we get into a situation and one of her maps or Google Maps is not working on her phone or something, and I go, if we had a paper map, we could find our way. And
they say those are disappearing, but I don't want to see them disappear.
Yeah.
I think it's essential to have a little pocket map, and like
a hard
on
copy.
battery side.
Right.
Sure.
Or be able to go into Barnes & Noble and pick up a travel guide, like right next to the other mainstream travel guides. Our tool is inclusive. It's not just only for people in wheelchairs. This is for everybody. So it's still going to be city guides that let you know where to go and what to do and what to see, no matter what your level of ability. And if it just so happens to affect you and you have some kind of mobility consideration, then you can look at what the sidewalk condition is and determine your route and all that based upon what you're willing to do for that day,
Okay.
So
let me add to here just 1 second. I'm sorry, Candace. Is that one of the data that facts that we've found through our research and through the last 3 or 4 years of developing Effortless City is that it's not just a consideration of people with mobility issues. Like if I am a pedestrian, able-bodied pedestrian, I too want to know the conditions of the sidewalks. Like based on the research and the survey that we did, over 60% of the people that answered this survey want to know where the sidewalk is cracked and it's not easy to travel. So it's, again, like Shannon was saying, it makes all the difference if you are on a motorized scooter and you have to know if there is or isn't a curb at the end of the block. But I've met many people who are able-bodied and just say, I hate traveling. I hate not knowing where I am or what to expect. Give it to me now, So that's our goal, is to make it so that it's not specific to a part of the population, but more inclusive. And, if you just want to take it easy, or if you have an injury, or if this is your reality on a day-to-day basis, you should use this.
Right, and that's a great point that you bring up, is that this idea, the Effortless City, is really about everybody. It's about the whole community, and it's a collaborative effect that when we create something for one group of people, it helps everyone, and no one is left out. And having that as part of the overall intention of your program, I think, is essential to the success of it, and for people to look at and use it.
Yep, and it applies to people. We've had 21-year-olds that want to bar hop and not have to climb hills, and parents are super excited because when their kids are first in strollers, it's like, oh my God, what do I do? How do I get anywhere? And it's a temporary thing, and typically they can carry you up steps and stuff. But all the way up until aging, when people age, there's a statistic that 1 in 3 children born today will live to be over 100. I mean, that's a lot to wrap your head around. So, yes, physically we'll be healthier, but our body will only last so long. So, you still eventually are going to want to know and not just be a shut-in and be done. You're going to want to be empowered to know that you can, and realize that, in my reality, walking is only a means of transportation. So my wheelchair takes me to the same places, but I just have different things to consider along the way, like curb cuts and bumps and all these crazy things. So it's definitely for everybody. But it fills a huge need for people with disabilities, because there is not many travel resources for us at all.
Well, absolutely. I mean, just knowing where, like in the lower picture there, where somewhere is going to have this huge dip and my wheelchair is going to want to go down into that, how I can cross the street and avoid that is essential for being able to extend my day, because especially with any kind of disability, the life is much more labor intensive, just moving throughout, daily living skills. And so any type of adaptation that can be made or change in the route that I'm taking to make it easier for me to get around is always ideal as far as being able to conserve energy. So when is the website going to be live and we're going to be able to to become pavement pounders and get out there on both sides.
Like we said earlier, I just presented this project as my thesis for my master's, and they have approved it and passed it, and actually invited me to take another semester to make it be on a business level, more on the ready side. So I am finishing up the website as we speak, in which you will be able to download the first map that we've developed for Haight-Ashbury, and find information on our process and become part of the team. So I say that by the 20th of December, right before Christmas, it will all be functional, and we will be taking in names for people that want to help out. Because as you know, and many of our listeners might not know, this is a two-women job so far. Like, we don't have teams of coders and things. And I've done it as far as I can do in terms of designing the key screens for the application, and functionality is there and it works. And now it's just a question of getting the funding behind us to actually make this come to life. So we are, as we speak, connected with the City of San Francisco and planning to enter accelerator programs that will enable us to hopefully, if selected, actually put this out in the world by the summer, so that people can actually, download the app and use it, or order the map and go ahead and explore.
But right now we do have the print versions available for people to join. There's a couple people that have already joined our team on a more volunteer basis right this second with our sidewalk kit that's printable, our printed version of it that we'll mail to you as far as the whole kit. So we can, we're really looking for volunteers right now to help us get this going, and it will turn into a paid position the minute that we have our products ready to get out there and sell the maps and guides and stuff like that. So it's a really, really exciting time for us, and it's right there where it's about to be out in the open. But the website itself will be up this week, which is super exciting. So
the website will be up this week, and is that where people can go if they want to get the printed version sent out to them of how they can participate in this effort? And we also, on our resource page here at the Reed Foundation, will be able to put up your website once it's out, and be able to send people towards it. So
and the more that we develop the pavement pounders, we can take it, to cities everywhere. Like, we want to be able to establish Effortless City in major cities everywhere. So, we have connections in Philadelphia, New York, stuff like that, where we can very quickly, once we have this all worked out in the applications and stuff, we can start to develop cities all at once. Our goal eventually is to do at least 10 cities per year and have them documented and mapped for everybody. But like I said, it's going to be a matter of building our teams, and that's where we're at right now, is taking it beyond this two-woman team and making a big Effortless City family. So that's our goal right now.
We have a question about your pavement pounders. If it says for pavement pounders, have you done anywhere other than San Francisco?
Not yet, because San Francisco was where we were going to develop the mapping system in order to take the data and put it, because typically maps now are based on streets. They're not based on sidewalks. So we had to really develop that system. And now that we have that system and we know that we need to create a database, we're going to be able to take it to all kinds of cities. We have basically a template where we can fill in data and take it from San Francisco to everywhere else. So we've been working hard to get to this place. So
and it's also especially because up until now, you would tell me, oh, I want to rate, say a street in Tahoe, right? I would manually do those maps for you and send you out that manually, like specifically to you, So as we move, as we grow, and as we implement technology to our benefit, because there is all of these things that you can tap into with data collection these days, the process will become more modern, more sophisticated in that aspect, in which it won't take me a week to prepare your kit to send it to you, kind of type of deal.
Right. Great. Well, I'll tell you, you have one person on your team already. Candace is saying, I live in rural Pennsylvania, and I'm very active with accessibility. How do I join the team?
Awesome.
So how do you join?
Drop us a message on Facebook, and we'll get in touch.
Send us an email, Shannon or Joanna at effortlesscity.com. For sure, we would, obviously we're not turning down anybody.
Yeah, no matter where you live, America, Europe, it doesn't matter. We got it.
So I have a question about updating. Once these maps are online and we also have them in hard copy, how often will you update?
Well, that's the importance of creating the pavement pounder teams. That'll really be our EC San Francisco, EC Philadelphia. The teams that we develop, we'd like to stick where they are developed and have surveyors that go around on a regular basis, are tied to the actual city and know when construction is going to happen. And there's also going to be an aspect within the app, the actual travel, the sidewalk app itself, not the data collection app, but the Effortless City map app, where you can put in an alert if say a tree fell and you come across it along your path. You could take a picture and put in an alert, and we'll add it to the main, the main map where everybody will know instantly, like live feedback of what's going on and to avoid this, and it's a detour for the time. But that is our ultimate goal, is to create Effortless City teams that stay in the city they're going to be at and help us run the show and make sure, everything is live and up to date and updated daily, So it is real information, because, even businesses, a lot of times they change along the street and stuff. So that's a good question. It is a goal of ours to these teams. That's why it's a hard position. Is we would really like for people to maintain it and make Effortless Cities everywhere, where you can stop through and get your map and do your thing. So that's how we would go
with
about
all the different groups that are creating accessible travel and with cruising and with travel into different countries with hotels, and there's websites to say, this hotel is really accessible. Is there any plans in the future down the line to collaborate with some of these accessible travel groups?
I think definitely. The one is Trekkable, Benedict and his partners. We've met with them personally, and he does a fabulous job with rating hotels and hotel rooms for true accessibility, and he too is in a wheelchair. So it is something that we would definitely include, and he's going to all kinds of major cities throughout the country as well. So that would definitely be included in part of our information that you get from the app and the website and the city guides. So definitely.
So there's a collaboration.
Yes, for sure. The one thing that we aren't going to do is a lot of apps and stuff like that out there right now, leave it to the audience to fill in the gaps. And you have an app that tries to tell you accessible places, but this place hadn't been rated yet, which is a fabulous thing, and I understand they're trying to build a database. But with our system, we don't want to give it out to the public until it's completely useful to you. So you can literally know exactly what the information is right then and there. It's not loose ends and, this place could be rate your experience kind of thing. So it's a full package where if you want to go to Haight-Ashbury right now, we're going to let you know everything we know about it. So that's one difference with us as far as other places are concerned. But Trekkable is a fabulous resource for people with hotels. Another one, wheelchairtraveling.com, and Access Northern California, Willing California Coast with Bonnie Lukowitz and Ashley. They have awesome information for trails and beaches.
Right.
And, so we work with these people now to collaborate and bring all the information together, so it's a comprehensive resource where you don't have to pick and pull and say, well, now I want to go to the beach, so I have to look this up.
And not necessarily have to reinvent the wheel either. If there are, because there are, we know there are other people out there doing other aspects of like
travel,
navigation and travel. Why not? Why not? Why try to do their job if they're already doing it? If they're doing a good job, complement it. So like Shannon was saying, Bonnie Lukowitz with the trails, like why if the trails have been mapped and mapped by the right person, why am I going to do them again? You know,
Right.
let's complement information. Let's pull these resources together so that if and when a person wants to know how to go about it, they can pick, you know, they can go to one place and have the information, even if they're guided to other places.
Well,
But we
and
want to be comprehensive.
your program, Effortless City, is really, as you said, comprehensive. It's about the
Right.
whole city. It's about every aspect of it. And
Right.
and by collaborating with these other groups, I mean, it truly is creating an effortless city. And
It is.
honestly, you've got a couple people on board already here. As soon as we
It's
put
awesome.
information on the resource
So
page,
excited.
and also you have a Facebook page, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we do have
Yeah.
a Facebook page. That's our main thing right now, but the website will be up by the end of the week. So, in order to get a hold of us, that is our main source right now, other than our email. So,
And we tweet.
Well,
too.
obviously we
tweet,
can
yeah.
chat on forever.
I
We're at
know.
the top of the
Sure.
hour, ladies. I so apologize. I would love to have you
Wow,
for another
it
hour.
flew.
Yeah, and I just have to thank both of you for joining us. I know Rob's going to come back
Definitely.
on and give us a little 411 at the end, but thank you so much. This is
Yes,
awesome.
thank you for the
And
opportunity
thank you for
to.
everybody too.
Yeah, thanks for everybody joining
I'm
us
seeing
too.
it, yeah. South Carolina, Pennsylvania, I see that and I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely reach out to us. We will stay in contact.
Cool. All right, Rob.
Thank you,
My
Candace.
2 cents is simply what a wonderful job. The three of you just flow so nicely together. It's so perfect. It was a nice presentation. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
And then I'll throw out the little pitch for Candace at christopherreeve.org/sports is where Candace said she will post the resources, so you can get some contact information there if you need that, and any other resources involving this webcast. So that is christopherreeve.org/sports. And then Candace writes a blog for us along with a bunch of other blogs at christopherreeve.org/lifeafterparalysis. christopherreeve.org/lifeafterparalysis. And you know, another thing I was thinking of, ladies, is that if you guys want to write a blog for us and do like a little guest blog and talk about what you're doing, we could even drum up some more traffic for you. So
Definitely.
Woo-hoo.
So
Thank
feel
you
free
very
to-
much.
Feel free, you know, Candace knows how to get hold of me, so feel free to send me something. I'll be happy to post it.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And get out there.
Yeah. That's it. Go see some.